Hey, pleasure to meet you, Brian.
Yeah, you too, man. Darren, thanks for coming on, man. So
Absolutely.
let's, yeah, I like, and to be honest with you, I like to just have a conversation. So that's kind of like what I kind of do with these. So
Okay.
let's just kind of go back, man. Like, it looked like was your father in the film business by any chance?
Yes, my father is or was Richard Sarafian,
Hmm.
and so I grew up in the business. And my mother's brother was Robert Altman. So it was, between those two, it was basically film business circus at our house every day. And but he's pretty well known for a movie that he directed called Vanishing Point, which is it's one of the I think one of the better action movies. I know Spielberg was a big fan of it, and Quentin Tarantino did Death Proof and brought it up many times as being one of the best chase movies of all time. But my father started out doing Gunsmoke and I Spy back in the '60s, and he did like a classic Twilight Zone, the one with Talkie Tina, the Living Doll episode.
I'll have to look it up now.
And and so he was a tough guy, grew up, he was, raised from immigrant Armenian parents. And it was all like, he didn't have us on a lot of his sets because he wanted us to figure it out on
Okay.
our own.
What do you mean by that? So figure out how to like actually like learn film by yourself.
He wanted us, I mean, there was five of us. I was the oldest of five. And we all, thought, oh, we're going to get into business. But he wasn't one to have us on the sets. He just thought it would be better for us to figure it out like he did. He's old school, like
Okay.
very old school. So we did. I mean, I did. I mean, I figured it out by moving to Italy, starting my career there.
Okay.
And I was working for Roger Corman, and at the time, um, James Cameron was working there at the same time I was, and Gail Ann Hurd. And I know that James Cameron went off to do Piranha 2 in Italy, and I had heard that he, said this is where to start your business. But halfway through Piranha, he gets fired, and I'm
Okay.
on my way over there, going, I'm going to go there. I'm going to do what he's doing. But then he gets fired. He's literally on a plane back while I'm heading there. And
Oh,
and everything he told me how great it was. I'm thinking he just got fired. Meanwhile, he's got the script that he written over there, Terminator. And I had just coincidentally just got done working with Linda Hamilton before Terminator on a movie called Tag the Assassination Game.
okay.
And next thing I know, she goes, I'm doing this movie with this guy, he seems crazy, blah, blah, blah. His name's James Cameron. And it's called The Terminator. And I don't know what this is and all this. And the whole time she was filming it, she was like, I don't know what this is going to be. And then, two movies later, he's marrying her. So that was the world we were in. And it was a very sort of small world with all those filmmakers and people up and coming filmmakers and want to be directors.
Hmm.
For instance, like on Death Warrant, I had hired this director of photography named Russell Carpenter, and he had gotten his hands on Death Warrant, liked the look of it, and then hired him to shoot True Lies for him, and then
Okay.
eventually do the Titanic, and then Russell Carpenter wins the Academy Award for Titanic. So it
Wow.
was, like I said, a very small world of all of us trying to figure it out.
That's so cool. Why Italy? So you were going to Italy to actually work with him on a project, and he
Not
was
him.
coming
Well, I was
back?
hoping to. I was hoping
Okay.
to. There was
Okay.
no, you're on this. It's like, get out here. It's great,
Okay.
right? And we had a lot of friends in common. And he gets fired. So I go, now what? So I figured, well, I'll just go to the studio. I'll go to Cinecittà Studio
Mhm.
because I had heard Fellini's there in the coffee shop. Um, um, Roman Polanski's there, all these different people. So I thought, I'm just going to go and hang out. I'll get a job, right?
Mhm.
So I go there, and sure enough, Roman Polanski's there, Fellini's there, and Fellini's making a movie called Ginger and Fred. and they had some problems. They were having problems with the camera,
Okay.
and I was like, had been working in the camera department for Roger Corman,
Mm.
and I knew that every once in a while a piece of film will break off on these old Aries, and it get wrapped up in the sprocket. So I said, let me take a look at it. And I get in there, it was like being a surgeon with all these people behind me with a flashlight, and I'm looking
Yeah,
through
yeah.
there, and I pull this long piece of film out, right? And I go, that was the problem. Meanwhile, the cameraman who speaks no English is yelling at me in Italian to get the out of his face, and what
Yeah,
are you
yeah.
doing here? And I don't speak any Italian at that point. I was there for years, so I learned it.
You're making him look
And
bad. Is that why?
so Fellini goes, okay, you're the DP. This is my break, right? So now I'm the DP, and I've never been a DP. I know how to load and unload films. So I'm there for 2 hours, basically with their gaffer, no one really spoke English. And
Mm.
the director of photography comes back. He's on his hands and knees and begs Fellini to take him back, and he does. And then I lost my job. So I had a job for 2 hours, right? But that being said, I had met Dario Gento there. Dario Gento was doing a horror film called Opera
Okay.
and some other films, finishing up on that. And I got to work on that. And in doing so, I got to meet the investor that invested in Dario's movie.
Mm.
And so we were talking and at lunch, and he says, do you have any ideas for, because I'm going to make these little horror films. I'm looking for ideas. And so I told him this idea that I had.
Hmm.
And he goes, great, I want to see the script. Can you bring the script by tomorrow? And I go, well, we're still working on it. It's not going to be done until in about 4 days, till Wednesday. And he goes, okay, Wednesday, bring the script in. So I go back to my place. I go, I don't have any script, zero script. And I go and I find there's no paper to type on. So I literally write this whole script out on greeting cards. A
Wow. That's interesting.
stack of greeting cards, right? This whole
Yeah,
script called The Falling. And I stay up day and night for 4 days, for 3 days, take it to a typist,
yeah. Okay.
and types up this scattered mess of like 100 pages, right? Together.
Yeah. Greeting
Slap the
cards.
script, scrap on greeting cards, slap it down on his desk, says the title on it. And he takes it, he goes, great. He looks at the last page, he goes, okay, I want to make this. I go, you haven't even read
He looked at the last
it.
page, what, just to see if it was finished?
How many pages there were? Pages through, he didn't even
Okay.
read it.
Yeah,
Hands
yeah.
it to his secretary assistant and says, read this. Luckily, she liked it and calls me back 3 days later. He goes, we want to make this movie. Can you shoot it in Spain? Right? Because it was just written as an American horror film.
Okay.
It was called Massacre at RV Park. And
Massacre in
so,
an RV park?
Massacre at RV Park.
At RV park. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, okay.
He goes, can you change it to Massacre in somewhere in Spain? And I go, yeah. So I change it all, rewrite it. Now I've got my own typewriter, my own Selectric, IBM Selectric, and pound away at this thing. Type it up, change it, give it to him. He goes, okay, I want you to meet with my production manager. I want you to go to Spain and start looking for locations. And I also want you to start thinking about casting. So I've got to get stars in this. So I end
Mm.
up with I was at the time dating this actress named Lynn Holly Johnson, who was the star of Ice Castles, and she was in a Bond film. I put her in it.
Okay.
Then I put Martin. Then I get Martin Hewitt, who was in Endless Love with Brooke Shields. And then I get Dennis Christopher, who was in this movie called Breaking Away, and they all agree to be in this movie. So next thing I know, I'm in pre-production. I'm in Spain. The movie's now changed to The Falling, called The Falling.
The Fallen.
I've
Okay.
got no time. I got like I forget how many days, like 12 days to film this in. I have only so much film I'm allowed to use, you
Hmm.
know. So I every take has got to be perfect. So I'm rehearse, and shoot it. And I finished the film and I cut it together. And that was my first movie. It got me another movie. And that movie got me another one, which got me Death Warrant. And then
Interesting.
Death Warrant, from a little movie that I shot, called To Die For. I got Death Warrant because Van Damme liked it.
Really?
And
Did you
and
know him prior or something? How
no,
did?
no, had never met him.
Oh
Had
wow.
never met
Okay.
him. But
You
somehow
just.
or another, he had seen that movie. It got some good reviews.
Mhm.
And somehow, some way, he couldn't get into something. Was playing in a little theater, probably somewhere, and he went to see that, and he liked the movie.
Interesting. Okay.
So they get a hold of me. I meet with him, and he's like, "I want you to direct my movie." I said, "Great. Who's it for?" It's for Canon Films, and and then David Ladd, who was running, was one of the his brother Alan Ladd Jr. ran MGM, and they had bought this company called Pathé, which was part of Canon, and he pushed for me, and it just so happened his wife, coincidentally, so all these things work together, was in a
Hmm.
movie I worked on called Rock and Roll High School for Roger Corman. Day Young was in it, and so she was with him. Goes, I remember that guy. He was a production assistant on blah blah blah. I love him, right? So
So
next thing,
cool.
all the right pieces came together. Had a great interview with Van Damme, and next thing you know, I'm directing my first big movie, which
That's cool.
was going to be a Canon like Pathé release. They liked it, and they released it on MGM, which was a huge break for me.
Were you excited to mess with the genre, or did you care at that point? You were just trying to make stuff. Like, what's your favorite genre? Because you work on this Death Warrant, but you seem to be doing the action stuff.
Well, I a huge fan of John Woo, his early movies.
Okay. Yeah.
So I already was like, watching these movies on cassette tapes at my friends, and we just love those movies. I mean, A Better Tomorrow, Hero Shed No Tears, The Killer, $30 Million Baby, all those movies we loved. And later he does Hard Boiled, which was amazing. The Killer was made because then I had kind of connected with him somehow or another, being just a fan, just
Hmm.
a fan of his work. So I got to see an early cut of The Killer while I was doing before it came out, before Death Warrant was shot, right around the same time, which was a big inspiration to me.
Yeah.
And then I got to meet like crew that was other crew people that were like my stunt team was amazing. Gary
Hmm.
Chang, big fan of all those movies. Um, I was a fan of Van Damme's Bloodsport. I love that movie. Thought it was very good, which was also inspired by those movies. So we had something in common.
Hmm.
And my thing with and David Goyer wrote the script, and David Goyer went off to do
A bunch
Batman
of stuff.
Begins.
Yeah.
He's just very prolific now, but this was his first movie. So we were
Yeah.
all basically hanging out in living rooms watching these old movies, just inspiring ourselves. And I go, we have a really good, interesting story here, but this action's it's got to be visceral, and it's got to be real, and it's just got to feel kinetic, and it's got to be the new type of action. It can't be the old action movies. This is not French Connection. This is a martial arts movie, so we have to think about it in quick cuts, quick shots,
Mm-hmm.
and literally David Goyer's script was this amazing fertile ground, and then what we did, and giving Van Damme a ton of credit, that's something giving Van Damme a ton of credit, you know, we would go in with the stunt team and figure this stuff out. And then we had to hire, our ultimate, Patrick Kilpatrick. They wanted, kept pushing like famous bad guys
Mm-hmm.
on me, and I didn't want that. I wanted somebody fresh, somebody new, and somebody really, really scary. So
Yeah.
we found Patrick Kilpatrick, which I think was the glue to make this thing interesting and pulpy and fun,
Yeah.
and over the top, which it needed to be, and luckily we had found him because he was the ultimate bad guy. I still know him, by the way. He's a good friend of mine.
Really, that's cool to
Right.
keep those kind of relationships throughout the years.
Yeah, no, he's a lovely guy. In fact, he got projects, and he's always got projects. I got this project. He's always has the same enthusiasm, and he looks the
That's
same. Looks
really
exactly the same. Yeah, he still looks
how
like a
old,
kid.
how old is he now?
I don't even know. He's got to be in his late
He's 20.
60s, I would
Good
think.
to see I'm 20. That's what he'll
I have
say.
I have no idea. I have no idea.
So let me ask you this then, because like me kind of because I grew up on like Death Warrant, like Jean-Claude during that time was like I was a big Jean-Claude fan, Jean-Claude Van Damme fan, like I love Lionheart, things like that. And when Death Warrant came out, that was like I watched that movie I can't even count, maybe like 100, 200 times growing up.
That's
So
awesome. You
like
saw more than I did.
yeah. Well, come on, when you were editing it, were you in the room like editing it or no?
Oh yeah, yeah. I was. I mean, John Barton cut that. He ended up doing the pilot for me for CSI New York, and then
Uh-huh.
ended up staying on CSI New York. I brought him into that, but John was fantastic. He was a fantastic editor. Van Damme would come in the cutting room, and he'd
Woody.
see the fights, and he'd be like, "Make the shots half as long, half as long. It needs to be boom, 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 boom." And he was right. I mean, I learned a lot from Van Damme on that movie.
Really?
A
Okay.
ton, a ton.
Okay.
He lovely, lovely guy. He he we had to bring him in for looping, and finally he got tired of looping, so I ended up having to imitate him in the
No
looping
way.
sessions. So I
Did
put
you
my
really?
voice in there. So sometimes he goes, "Prisoners die all the time." It was me, just putting because he couldn't come in, so I had to do it for
Yeah.
him. Van Damme was interesting. He would come in every day with he was very like into just, he wouldn't drink water out of a plastic water bottle, only glass. He was
Really?
very, very meticulous, always had a briefcase with him. And we're like, what's in that briefcase? What the hell
Million
could be
dollars.
what is in this briefcase? Exactly. Finally, he left once and we looked inside. It was filled with pens.
No
He
way.
must go to everywhere and take pens, filled with pens.
That's so
Expensive
cool.
ballpoint pens, Schaefer pens, you name it, silver pens. He was a collector of pens, only
You're
pens and
messing
a
with me.
couple of pages in a script.
Really? Are you messing with me or is that real?
That's real. You can
Wow.
ask him if you ever
Okay.
talk to him.
Interesting. Maybe one day, maybe I'll get him on the pod, but
Yeah,
uh, that's
but I
interesting.
loved
So,
him. I
what's
loved
the
him. He
thing
was
then?
he was amazing to work with.
Mhm.
It was a great collaboration. Our stunt coordinator was lovely. Everybody on board. Russell Carpenter, our DP, could not have been more generous. And we just had a blast. It was a lot of fun. It was hard work because we were
Mhm.
shooting late hours, 20-hour days, but we got it done. And then I was over in Russia when it opened, and a good friend of mine goes, Death Warrant is only opening in what, 800 theaters, and it opened to like $6 million opening weekend. He goes, your movie's open to 6 million. That was huge back then. $6 million, and
Yeah.
it was like amazing. And I'm like, oh, is that good? You're thinking, because I'm just into making these things,
Yeah.
not doing all the paperwork and everything goes along with it.
Interesting. What was the budget on that? Do you know?
Well, it says on IMDb it's for something, but I can't imagine it being over a little over that much over 1 million.
Really? So
Yeah,
kind of embellished it a little bit.
they embellish it so they can sell it foreign and all that. And I can say that now since it's been out for a while, but it definitely wasn't made for 4 million.
Interesting. Let me ask you this though: does Jean-Claude like the slow-mo shots? Because I've heard he likes things to be more slow with the fights. But I didn't see a lot of that in that movie.
Well, I told
Yeah.
him I told him, I mean, the slow motion shots are manufactured in editing rather than using shooting 60 frames, 90 frames per second.
Mm,
But he insisted near the end, a couple of shots there, like right when the Sandman gets shoved into the furnace,
mm.
that slow, and it worked. I think it worked for him getting kicked in there. But I didn't want the slow motion shots in there. Um, John Woo didn't use them a lot, and again, such a huge fan of his that I
Mm.
didn't want to. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to feel organic, raw, and edgy. So I went for that look, for that feel.
So you had like a real clear image going into this. So you're like, oh, this is how I want to shoot it. This is what I want to do with it. Or do you leave a little bit for openness on that? Or are you very rigid and like strict on what you want to be or
I
what you
have
want?
I definitely have a plan when I go in.
Mm.
I have a plan, but any good director, and I've watched John Huston direct and some great Pete Fellini direct. Any great director is open to something that may happen that could be more interesting. You
Mm.
can't close your mind off. And even my episodes of television and all that, I've always kept that in the back of my hand. I always have a plan, because if I don't go in with the confidence. It's like a reoccurring directing dream I have. I get there and I don't even know what the script means. I don't have a plan, and everybody's looking at me, waiting for me to say something. So I do have a plan. I'm big on storyboarding, and like Terminal Velocity, the movie I did with Charlie Sheen.
Yeah.
Every action shot, I mean, I had thousands and thousands of storyboards that I would put up on a wall, and we would pick them off. Now, if something happened interesting, and it always does, you're never going to get exactly what, you're not doing a commercial, you're doing an organic movie.
Mm.
You've got to be, and everything's open for interpretation, especially when you see it and you set it up and you line it up and you're ready to shoot it. Something, an actor will come up with a contribution, a PA will come up with a contribution, may come up to you and say, hey, wouldn't it be cool if you shot through the windows and focused on that? And I'm going, get out of here, kid. Hey, I want you to shoot, I want you to focus out through the window and focus on this.
Yeah. That's funny. So Terminal Velocity then, because you, dude, I mean, I could imagine, because I was watching that last night, and I remember watching it back when I was younger. But I mean, you did like everything, like there was like every type of action you could think of in that movie, from like, I mean, a car skydiving with a car trying to unlock it, to I don't know, that rocket thing that was on that train track
Right.
they
Uh,
flew out of. So I mean, what was that process like? Because you, I would think, have to be very meticulous with that, because there's just a lot of things going on.
Well, that movie again, that was very well. All that was thought out. I had like an amazing stunt team on that. I was years ago was a production assistant on a movie called Cannonball Run, and I'd met
Mhm.
Buddy Joe Hooker on that movie. And Buddy Joe Hooker is a legend stunt guy who started the Stunts Unlimited, and just he knows everybody. Gary Baxley, all the people, Gene LaBelle,
Gee, yeah.
all the top guys, and I was friends with them. So I brought them all on. When I know I told them, I said, someday I'm going to direct, and we're gonna all work together. They go, we believe you, kid. And next thing you know, I'm on a $55 million movie, and I've said, bring everybody, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So
We got the
we would sit around in a big circle and talk about the stunts and the action. I go, I want this. This is supposed to be an action comedy. That was
yeah.
my head on this, and that's how I got James Gandolfini to do it, and
Mhm,
Charlie to do it at the time, because he was pretty hot, very hot at the
mhm.
time. I said, we're going to do action, but we're going to have our tongue in our cheek the whole time, and we're going to have a lot of fun with this, because we need to make a movie that has, and that's what worked on True Lies. True Lies had a sense of humor to it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I wanted to have that sense of humor through this, but at the same time keep the action, fun, realistic. There's very few CGI shots in that. I mean, we literally threw Cadillacs out of the back of that airplane. We've had 17 Cadillac Elantes that we threw to get those shots, that we went one by one by one. Jeff Haberstadt, the guy who was hanging on the car, Charlie's character, played Charlie's character, literally jumped out of that thing. Two stunt people, threw,
Mhm.
jumped out of that thing, and we do it piece by piece by piece, and then finally put a stunt girl in the trunk of the car, which was obviously braced so when it, closed
Mm.
on her, she gets stuck in there, and literally crawled around that car and grabbed her and pulled her out. And that's all real. And now I see it on, Triple X. They keep redoing that stunt in movies. The same
Yeah.
thing, car out of the airplane, car out of the back of the C-130. But we were the first person to to kick the car out of the back of the C-130. That was us. And when I first got that movie, Disney wanted to know, how are you planning on shooting that? I came in with every single storyboard, and I draw. So I had every single shot down. And when we tried to figure it all out for safety reasons, because it's not a low budget movie, I wanted to cover all my bases as far as safety on this thing, because putting a guy on a biplane that sits on top of the thing, it turns upside down, gets up to a real C-130, grabs a hold of it, that's all real. Of course, Charlie's face is put in, but
Yeah.
all real. Our stunt guy, Jeff Haversack, did all that.
What would damn, yeah. I mean, there was just so much. And I was gonna say that too, like watching it, I was like, there's like it seems like you did a lot of original things before a lot of people did that because you had so many elements in it of action, like from the fight scene. I mean, yeah, a little bit of fight, not a lot of fighting, I guess per se, like martial arts fighting in the beginning. There was a good bit of it, and then more like a little bit sporadic.
At the end, yeah, Gandolfini gets in a
Yeah, a little bit
throwdown with Charlie and beats the shit out of him, and then bear hugs him, and then
when they
Charlie
flip
pulls the parachute and he flies into the windmills. All that stuff we came up with that on location scouts. Hey, wouldn't it be cool if we do this? Wouldn't it be cool if we do this? Then having somebody like Buddy Joe Hooker with me, he goes, hey, dude, this is what we need to do. We need to do, because he'd worked with me on a movie that got me that movie, a movie called Gunman in Mexico. And so he and I, had already worked together on that movie. And so he's just a good director, great director, can't do it alone. You gotta be able to mine the great ideas out of the people that you believe are talented that you've put around you. I mean, that goes with Death Warrant, with Russell Carpenter, who brilliant DP, who had nothing but great ideas, nothing but great ideas. And I get frustrated when I'm producing and I got to hire directors in TV and they're so stubborn and they're not listening to anybody. And I go, what? You've got a great team around you. Why are you not listening to your team that can help contribute? And usually those directors really don't go anywhere. They just don't. And if you listen to Quentin Tarantino's book, he says the same thing. I mean, and even Spielberg, he hires great people. Janusz Kaminski's his DP, who he loves, but he listens to him. He doesn't say, "Oh, I have to have this angle and only this angle." Janusz Kaminski's going to go, "Yeah, but wouldn't it be good if you had, another angle and we could focus through the fence and then we could get the whole, the feeling of Auschwitz being caged in and that sort of thing." And then Spielberg is like, "Yeah, you're right. That's great," but he listens. And Scorsese, all the great ones. I don't know about Kubrick. I don't know how he works. I'm sure, he has his own thing, but I'm sure he listens to people too. You'd be sitting next to your script supervisor and you're always asked, that's your sounding board. And you're always like, so what do you think? Do you think that works? Nah, it felt wooden. Okay, thanks. All right, that was wooden. Let's do it again.
Let's do it again, is what you're saying? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let me ask you this with Sheen then. Like, since he was at the top of his heap at that time, what was he like to get and what was he like to work with? Like, was that a difficult process to get him on board?
It wasn't. I had that movie Gunman that studios liked, and another low budget movie, but it was sort of a love letter to Sergio Leone, but another with its tongue in its cheek. It had a great sense of humor to it. Played very well with audiences and the theater, and so he saw that movie and really liked it. And I sat down, had one meeting with him. He says he's on board. That guy got up with me every morning. We ran, got to work, and he was 100% sober the whole movie. He was as healthy as you can be. He was always up early, ready to go, jogging shorts, shoes, ready to go jog, and he was 100% there. So I loved working with him. He's one of the most generous, kindest actors I've ever worked with. Lovely, lovely guy.
So you like to run then?
I every once in a while, not like I did, but back
Yeah.
then I did. That
You
back
were more
then
of a runner back
to
then?
clear my head, although the first morning on our first day of shooting
Mhm,
was the 1994 January 17th, and we were shooting in Arizona, and I get up to get my running gear on our first day of shooting,
mhm.
and I have the CNN on, and all of a sudden they interrupt it with a broadcast saying Los Angeles has just had an earthquake of catastrophic proportions. And it was a huge January 17th earthquake, happened on our first day. So I get out, so I get a call from the head of production at Disney and says, you gotta keep your crew because they're gonna want to go home. And I luckily had gotten through to my mom and everybody and told me how horrible it was. So I get on the set, my first day. It also happened to be my birthday. So it was like crazy, right?
Happy birthday, man.
Back then was my birthday. Then, not now.
No,
But
I'm just
yeah. And so exactly, it was a happy birthday. I get to the set, I get on an Apple box, and I gather everybody around. I go, I know there's been an earthquake. We all know about it. Anybody that needs to leave, go home. You have a job waiting for you when you get back. Half the crew went home. So the studio was furious. And my agent calls me and goes, you might get fired for that. And I'm going, half these people live in New Hall in that area. That's where they're from. That's crews and camera crews. That's where they're all from. They go, well, you got to keep shooting. At least you got to put something in the can. And so my DP, Oliver Wood, he stayed, I stayed. And so we shot all day long and shot a ton of footage. So it was like we never stopped. So we did that for 3 days. The crew trickled back in, basically. There was a love there and a dedication there. And it's not always about money with crew. They want to like you and they want to believe in you. And they also want to believe you're a good guy and you're going to take care of them. And so the rest of the shoot was like butter. It went great. But I didn't do it for that reason. I did it because it was the right thing to do. But that went a long way without realizing it at the time. It was a big deal. That earthquake was, when I talked to my brothers and my mom and my dad, they said they'd never felt anything like it. And Los Angeles was in ruins. And it was terrible. But that was my first day on terminal velocity, which I thought might be interesting.
I've never experienced an earthquake, so like I don't know. Have you ever experienced one in person or no?
I have. I'm always seem to be out of town for the big ones, though. I'm never around. I didn't feel that one. There was another one, I guess, in the 70s. I was going to boarding school then, so I never felt that. But I feel little ones all the time, and we feel them here. Yeah. But you're from New York. You're in New York, correct?
No, I'm out of Florida actually.
Oh, okay. All right.
I go to Georgia a lot. Like I'll bounce back to Georgia wherever if I
By
book
the way,
something.
I saw your reel. I saw your reel, and you're acting, and you're very good.
Thank you.
And congratulations on that.
Appreciate you.
Yeah. Interview you. What do you got coming up? What do you got going?
Maybe we'll work together. I don't know, but no,
I hope so.
I'm just auditioning, man. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I'm just auditioning. I'm a hustling it, man. I produce. I love producing, so it's just trying to put stuff together that I like to do too, and I love the action stuff. I've been training actually in stunts, believe it or not.
Oh, right. Okay, right on.
So I've been learning some of the stunt stuff because I love martial arts and fighting.
Right.
And that's really fun, man. I've been doing some crazy stuff like the dead man and stuff like that, where you tie a rope and you just run and it just yanks you back like you got hit with a bat,
That's the worst. That's that and car crashes that just come to a complete halt. Like if you jump a car and it augers in. They call it a fart knocker. But the dead man rope, that is tough. We did that in South Africa on Dominion. We have a scene. I don't know if you saw my reel, but you see those guys. There's a bunch of like zombie-like people running, and they get dead manned on those things. And we're just all trying to revive them afterwards, getting the wind knocked out of them, and crazy.
Yeah, they hurt. I had a mat, of course. I had one of those little, not like a foam mat, probably like about like that thick,
Okay.
So I got to at least get that cushion, because I'm new to the stunts, man. That stuff, it beats your body up, yes,
Yeah, but that's not the hard part. It's not the yanking back on. The part is coming to the dead stop. That's what breaks ribs and collarbones and knocks the wind out of you. And I've seen stunt guys walk around trying to get the air right before they pass out, and everybody's rubbing their back. Take it easy to you get your breath back. You'll get your breath back. Especially people that haven't done it before. That first time they tell you do not hold your breath because you can puncture a lung because of the compression. So it's just like diving. I don't know if you scuba dive or not, but when you come up, you're not supposed to hold your breath. You got to let the air out. And it's the same thing with that stunt.
Really? Yeah, you probably seen it more than me, man. I just been training a little bit. Well, let's talk because you were talking about gunmen, right?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that because that's what Mario Van Peebles was in that and a few other guys.
Dennis Leary, Patrick Stewart. It was Dennis Leary's first movie. I had
Okay.
seen him doing on his commercials and stuff and got him into it. And then got Mario into it. And then Patrick Stewart. And I personally love that movie.
Mhm.
I don't think, you go on IMDb and they always, unless it's something,
Yeah.
they all jump on the same bandwagon. Somebody doesn't like it, they don't even look at the movie and they'll just criticize it. I mean, I've done, a few of my films like back in USSR, which I later hired Roman Polanski to be in to play the bad guy in my movie that I shot in communist Russia. I am very
Mhm.
proud of that movie, and I'm actually going to have it. I'm actually going to screen it at the Vista, which is the Quentin Tarantino's theater. I'm going to have a screening of it, but I'm really proud of that movie. It took place. We shot it in communist Russia during Perestroika, before the wall came down and everything. And
Mhm.
that was an we were I think we were like could be the only American movie of that time and era to shoot a complete American movie in Russia with a Russian crew, with some American keys,
Mhm.
and we went there, and it was fascinating. And I went back on Terminal Velocity in '94 to go back to shoot the ending of Terminal
Yeah.
Velocity in Moscow, and got a ton of help from a lot of people I had worked with, but I didn't recognize it. Moscow was unrecognizable when I was there because you couldn't hardly find food. Roman Polanski was ordering food from England, having it shipped in cases so we'd all eat up in his hotel suite because you
Wow.
couldn't get food. Just it was hard to. You can get sturgeon and caviar and all that stuff, which is great,
Mhm.
but we wanted cheese and bread and stuff that I mean, by the time we left there, we were there for like I was there altogether for like almost 4 months. I'd probably lost 20 pounds. It was just like crazy, starving the whole time.
Just not eating. Is that why?
There was just no food. I mean, the first day on the set, we had this Russian caterer, and he comes out with these Tupperware cups that had this like greenish broth with this like oil floating on top with hot dogs in it. And I'm like, what's this? And he's like, it's hot dog soup. And I go, "Oh." The crew's looking at me like they want to kill me, especially Americans, right?
Yeah.
And he goes, Americans love hot dogs. And I'm like going, no. So 2 weeks later, we're looking forward to hot dog soup day.
Okay.
That was my hot dog soup story.
So you got hot dog soup, kind of, and there's no food. You're in. So that was the Russian. Now let me ask you this, because I was watching some of the trailer of that. It looked like more of like a fun movie, but there was also it's a crime drama.
Yeah, it's a crime drama with a sense of humor. Yeah, it was definitely it's a crime drama with a sense of humor. So
And so the gunman, let's touch on that because you said that led to Terminal Velocity, and you said you made that on a low budget. Um, how did that come to you? And then I'm a fan of Mario Van Peebles. What was it like to work with him? And did he do his own action and stuff like that? How did that work?
yeah, he did do his own action, and so did Christopher Lambert. Everybody did pretty much did their own action on that. We had a great stunt crew, but Mario was very physical. He wanted to jump out of doors and windows, and he was a lot of fun to work with, and he's great. Christopher Lambert was amazing, and I did 2 movies with him. Right after I did that, I did a movie called The Road Killers with him.
Mhm.
A lot of fun, and in the movie again, I'm very proud of that film. It's a lot of fun to watch, and again, it's like an ode to all the Sergio Leone movies.
I'll have to watch it. That was the one I didn't get to see. I didn't get to see that one actually. So um I'll have to go ahead and actually watch that. Is that on Amazon?
I'm not sure where you can find it. To be honest with you.
The TV aspect, how did that fall in? Because it seemed like you kind of haven't been messing with the movies much, and then you started working on a bunch of TV shows, stuff like that.
I was developing. I was involved in developing a movies, and they would start to get set up, I was going to do this movie called Flying Tigers. And I had the studio and I had differences on who was going to be the star of it.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I wanted a young Matthew McConaughey, and I thought, oh, I'm just going to fight for him and I'll get him. And they ended up canceling the film. So I spent like 8 months getting a movie ready. That did not happen,
Gotcha.
and that was frustrating. And so then I got an offer to direct an episode of Nash Bridges, and I love working. I love directing.
Mm-hmm.
So I did an episode of Nash Bridges, and I absolutely love the pacing of it. I love the cruise, television cruise.
Mm-hmm.
Everything about it to me appealed, and I thought to myself, TV is not going to go away. I like it. It likes me, and I'm just going to do this for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And decided, and then I got married, had kids, and I knew it would keep me home. I'd be able to raise my children because I
Yeah.
was raised by a father who was always away, and I thought I want to be home. I want to be home. I want to go every day to 20th Century Fox, like on House. I
Mm-hmm.
can ride my bike there. I can direct good stuff. I feel you're making money. Why wouldn't I want to continue to do this? And so I decided, I made a judgment call because I was getting offered sequels to horror films and that sort of thing, and some
Mm-hmm.
action movies. I didn't like the scripts, but but I decided that this is what I want to do and produce, and it's been great. I've had a blast directing television. That being
Really?
said, after COVID hit, I did some writing and decided I'm going to take another chapter of my life, and it's going to be writing and producing and directing. So I wrote a film. I sent you the info on it. It's called Henry,
Yeah.
and Angela Mancuso is my producer, and she was president of Universal Television for a while. Took it to her. She loved it. She raised the money, and now we're making that movie together. We're actually casting that now.
That's awesome, man.
So it's something that I was sitting around during COVID and literally going crazy, and I just started writing, and I can write. So I wrote this movie, gave it to her, and she loved it.
So you want to go back to film, but do you like film or TV better? Like, is there one you would pick? Like, if you had to be stuck, because you can. I mean, you also develop in a TV show too, so you like both. I would say, right?
I love them both. It's like to me, they're is equally as rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
The movie is something that I love horror films, going
Okay.
back to the days of Dario Argento, and I go, I'm going to write a horror film, and that's what I did. So I wrote that movie, and then I wrote this TV series called Cult of McQueen that I decided to. A friend of mine, an actor, William DeVry, an
Mm-hmm.
amazing actor who I'd worked with on several shows like Nikita and Hemlock Grove, came to me with an idea. He goes, I want to do a buddy cop show with two guys, two cops. And I go, all right. So I thought about it, and I go, I want to do a buddy cop show, but I want it to be a washed up cop, and I want to be a girl, a martial art, ex MMA
Yeah.
female,
Yeah.
and she's new school and he's old school. So I wrote Colton McQueen. Joe Duca is my co-writer on that, and brought in brought in more actors. I have one of the roles is Al Sapienza, who was on Sopranos. You might know who he is if you saw his face. He's
I
playing
saw.
the chief,
Yeah.
and this is a buddy comedy with heavy duty drama. And I don't see this show on television.
Mm.
So we've raised money independently, and we're going to go shoot this pilot, hopefully in about 3 weeks.
Are you having? So are you trying to pitch it now, or have you're like, you know what? I'm gonna hold up. I'm
I
gonna
don't need to
shoot the
pitch
actual
it.
pilot. No, you're just
Yeah,
gonna.
I'm running it. I don't need to pitch it. I have no bosses, and so and I've done every pilot I've done has gotten picked up,
Okay.
and I go, I can do this. And then I reached out to people I've worked with, camera department, uh, mixing stages, camera equipment, and everybody is jumping in and saying, we believe you, Darren. We love the script. So I'm getting so much help and people jumping in to make this TV series. And it's gonna be fun. It's an LA cop show. And it's gonna feel like Starsky and Hutch.
Is it tough shooting in LA though? Like an independent project like that? Is it tough? Or because I heard it's more conducive to like the studios and stuff.
It's only as tough as you make it for yourself. I mean, I love shooting in Los Angeles.
Mhm.
We're going, with most unions, and but all the equipment's here.
Yeah.
Camera cars, camera lighting, everything. And so these houses, because they're not making a ton of stuff here right now, you go up to these places where I've hired equipment out of for years and years and years,
Mhm.
and I go, like up to Kessler Camera and go, hey, listen, I'm shooting this independent thing and I don't have any money. He goes, what do you need? So I'm gonna
Yeah.
have a pilot that I'm gonna make for, I don't want to say how much for, but it's a lot less than they make any episode of television out here. That will end up looking like a finished product that's out off the presses from the studio.
That's
Then
awesome.
I'll take it and I'll take it around and find a place that'll buy it and start making my own show.
Where do you see it going? Do you have anything in mind, like Netflix, Amazon, just HBO? Like, do you have any feelings where it might go?
I, I don't want to say, but all those are eligible houses to play it in. It could be Tubi. It could be a lot of different things. But at this point, not a lot of people are doing it.
Mhm.
Uh, with all the strikes and everything, the town is still revving up. So there's a big gap in content out there. They
Mhm.
need content, so they're not showing reruns of The Bachelor. So I'm hoping to fill that gap.
And once they pick it up, that's when they'll fund it.
Then they fund it. I run it through my production company because I can still do it for cheaper than they can.
Mhm.
And I get what they call as a licensing fee. So then I own foreign on it and everything. And if it works, it's a gold mine. It's a gold mine if you have a hit series. But the script's tight. Been working on it for a while now.
Mhm.
It's good. I'll send it to you. You can take a look at it if you'd like.
Yeah, I'd love to, man.
And uh, and it's an action cop show. So there could be things in it in the future for you. I've seen your work.
I'd love it, man. I'd love to be a part of it. Any way I can help, definitely let me know, as far as that
Great.
goes. But yeah, I mean the pitching project thing, it's like because you've seen Tyler Perry kind of do that a little bit where he shot his own stuff. And then in Georgia, I don't know if you ever been there, but I've been to his place
Yeah,
in Georgia. It's
I have
massive, dude.
shot shows in that big brick complex there. But
Wow.
yeah, he's doing his own thing, and he's found a way. He found his niche. He's funny. He's smart.
Yeah.
He's a great leader, and he's put together a lot of diverse talent together and got them
Mhm,
jobs. Before it was a mandatory.
mhm.
He has been huge for Georgia, huge.
Yeah, yeah. No, dude, I really appreciate it. I don't wanna eat up your time, and I know you had the issue with the phone and stuff like that. But anytime you wanna come on and you wanna just chat, you have anything you wanna do, um, feel free to ask, and any way I can help, with what you got going on, let me know.
Great, great. I'll send you a script. Take a look at it.
Alright?
And who knows when we get it together, it's all together. We can. We can talk about that. Give it a little publicity.
Definitely, man. I appreciate you.
But it was great talking with you, and I'm flattered and humbled that you were interested in talking to me.
Yeah,
And I wish you the best in everything you do.